Shalawama, I'm Dr. Yasapa from Zion Law School. Welcome to episode 27 of Astrotheology. All right, remember we are doing a reading from the book, uh, the Devil's Pulpit by Reverend Robert Taylor. Okay, so we'll be reading, explaining what was written in the text. And after that, we'll discuss it. So your comments really help a lot. All right, so put your comments in the comment section. And ask questions and answer questions. All right, I say this all the time, every time I say this. But it's necessary, of course, for the new people. For those of you who have been coming since the beginning, I want to say thank you for spending your time with me here as we go through this. You all will remember, you know that this is a difficult read, right? This is really a difficult read, but we work through it together. We get through it together, and and it's fun. It's really fun. So for the new people, there's no religion. Okay, there's no religion. There's no doctrine. You don't have to worry. There's no spiritism. If you're curious about the title of the book, you can download the PDF and you'll see why. There's no spooky stuff in this book or presentation, okay? So, that said, I'm going to turn my camera off and we're going to get started. I want to introduce the new people to the 101 Ancient Ibaryath course. You see it scrolling on the screen, right? So you can find that on zionlawschool.org, all right? And then you can scroll down. When you get there, scroll down. Now go to the course menu, course offerings like you see right here. All right, I'm going to show you how to get here. So zionlawschool.org, click on course offering, and you're going to see Hebrew self-study course. Okay, this is the course. So click on that. This is the 101 Ancient Ibaryath course, and I'm going to show you what we made, what we put together for you. This is for not only learning Ibaryath, y'all, but this is going to help you improve your reading comprehension with English or any other language that you're learning or using every day, rather. Let me restate that. No matter what language you speak, this is going to help you with your reading comprehension, all right? And it's basically giving it away for free, right? It's $1 to try it for a day and then $10 a month. But you can read all of this. This has everything, okay? This is a fully loaded, comprehensive introductory course. Pictographs, grammar, word studies, vocabulary words, you name it. The Ibaryath verbal root system, everything is in here. So if you scroll down, you'll see the subscribe button. That's what you want, the $1 trial. And then it's going to go over to a $10 per month subscription. So if you keep scrolling down, you'll see part 1, part 2, and part 3. This is the syllabus or the curriculum, whatever you want to call it. It's going to tell you some of the topics that are covered in the course. Doesn't cover everything, right? But it's going to give you a good overview of what's in the course. All right. So why is it important to learn Ibaryath? We'll go to the Bible Hub, Jeremiah chapter 8, verse 8, out of the Amplified Bible. You're looking at it in the highlighted section. It says, how can you say we are wise? What is wisdom? Being wise, this is the proper application of knowledge, right? Applying knowledge correctly. Okay, how can you say we are applying knowledge correctly? And the law or the instructions of the Most High is with us, and we are learned in his language. What language? Not biblical Hebrew. Okay, not biblical Hebrew, not modern Hebrew. These are modern. Okay, they're modern, they're not ancient. But it is Ibaryath. That's the language our ancestors who lived during these days, Moses, etc., all of them spoke Ibaryath. All right, that was it. Ibaryath. All right. Behold, Oh, it says, how can you say we are learned in Ibaryath and its teachings? Y'all understand that? How can you say we are applying knowledge correctly and the law of the Most High is with us? What knowledge? The law or the Most High's instructions. How do you know we are applying it correctly, right? And we are learned in its language, learned in Ibaryath, and its teachings. Again, what are the teachings? That's the instructions, the law, the commandments. How can you say we are doing that, right? He's asking the question, how can you say that? Then he says, behold, or the truth is that the lying pen of the scribes, that's your ancestors and mine, has made the law into a mere code of ceremonial observances. This is religion. All right. So Jeremiah lived around the time of the beginning of Babylonian captivity. Okay. And our ancestors, the scribes, the black priesthood, the dark priesthood, these renegades had already begun writing lies into the records and creating religion out of what was once the Most High's instructions pure, right? They contaminated them by writing in lies, changing words, adding books, adding chapters, adding verses, you name it. All right. They were very creative. And then, of course, after Babylonian captivity, there became Judaism, Christianity, Islam, and then all the various other religions. All right. Now, there are other priests outside of our nation who were involved in this, but that's a different topic. All right. So that said, let's go into the lesson. All right. Let's get into it. So I'm going to pull the document up. This is The Devil's Pulpit, written by Reverend Robert Taylor. We're going to begin on page 153 with the reading, okay? Page 153 with the reading. So let's go ahead and get started. But before we do, just let me check y'all to make sure we have sound. Give me 1 second, okay? I want to make sure the live stream is okay before I start. So like and share the video. Like and share the video. All right. Everybody really needs to know about astrotheology. This is such a big deal, right? If y'all might know, you might remember, I don't know how long you have been in this knowledge, but you'll remember that years ago, when the issue of the Christ figure came up and whether he was black or white, a lot of it relied on what? Church art. And that church art is loaded with astrotheology. All right. The halo around the Christ figure's head is a reference to astrotheology, right? That's the sun. Okay. So if y'all remember that, all of that artwork, even the design of the Vatican, astrotheology, okay, all over it, right? That's how important this topic is. So when you looked at those pictures and you saw the Christ figure as being black, that was very influential in convincing you that you were a Hebrew Israelite, right? Very convincing. Well, that same artwork has more information that you did not recognize because you don't know astrotheology. And just as you were convinced and influenced then, once you learn astrotheology, when you look at these pictures and others, you'll see something completely different than what you saw before. There's more information in those images than what you are aware of right now. And learning this topic is what's going to help you. Learning these topics is what's going to help you to be able to look at those pictures and see what's really there. All right. So there we have it. Let me check to see if we got sound. All right, we have sound. So I'm going to go ahead and start reading, y'all. All right. So be generous with your comments. Don't be stingy with your knowledge, please. All right. Share your blessings, as they say. Page 153. About to pull it up now. Here we go. All right. So here we go. Page 153. Make sure. Yeah, page 153. One of the most striking epithets of the lowercase god Janus was matutinus, that is, of or pertaining to the morning, as he was believed to preside over all beginnings, entrances, gates, and commencements, not merely over the beginning of the year, but over the beginning or dawn of every day, and hence the cock, C-O-C-K, whose crowing announces the first appearance of the day, was the peculiarly accompanying emblem of the lowercase god Janus, and bears precisely the same part in the gospel allegory. In crowing Peter into repentance, as he bears in the analogy of nature, when his shrill voice proclaims the breaking in of evangelical light upon the dark conscience of the sun abjuring apostle. And the evidence of his repentance descends upon the world in the dewy tears of the morning. I like the way he wrote that. Okay, hence, 'tis the allegorical language of the sun, S-U-N, addressed to the god of morning, most beautiful in poetry, most accurate in nature, in the 130th Psalm, quote, my soul waiteth for thee before the morning watch. I say before the morning watch, end quote. Nor less allegorical, nor less beautiful, is that extension of the metaphor and the language of Christ to Janus of the gospel. Okay, Janus of the gospel, y'all remember, is Peter. If you don't remember that, go back and watch yesterday's astrotheology lesson. So it should be number 26, okay? Number 26 is dealing with Peter and who Peter is, right? Who is Peter? All right. So let's continue. Quote, before the cock crow, thou shalt deny me thrice, end quote. That is extendedly, quote, through the 3 watches of thy state of darkness, thou shalt forswear thy Lord, but the early bird shall awaken thee, and at his crowing thou shalt perceive my glance upon thee, and acknowledge its influence in dewy sorrows, end quote. The Greeks, who never adopted the Janus of Rome, of the Romans, had a Janus of their own, i.e., the same allegorical personage under the name of Asclepius, who, like the Janus of the Romans, the Jonas of the Old Testament, and the Simon Bar Jonah, or Simon Peter of the Gospel, was none other than one of the 10,000 personifications of the sun. All right, so they're all the personifications of the sun, S-U-N, as is discovered to us in the etymology, See how important etymology is. Y'all go subscribe to 101 Ancient Ibaryath. Come see us Saturdays, 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. The links are in the chat. 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on Saturdays, we have a live online class. You can come twice for free. Don't have to pay anything. All right. The links for both are in the description area of this video. So it says, in the etymology of the name Asclepius, which is compounded of the 3 Ammonian radicals. 1, ash, means fire. 2, kul, K-U-L, means all. And 3, ab, means father. with the mere grammatical termination, making ash, kol, ab, eus, that is, Ashcolapius. Okay, so the B becomes a P, y'all. The fire. Okay, so Asclepius means the fire. Okay, so that's the sun. The universal father, that's also the sun, according to the author, S-U-N. Of the Greek Janus, then, as well as the Roman, the cock, C-O-C-K, was the peculiar emblem. And we have the meaning significancy. Okay, so let me scroll down so y'all can see it. And we have the meaning significancy. We go to the next page. And beauty. Let me get a page together. And beauty in those last words of the dying Socrates, admitted to have been one of the wisest of the human race and a most strenuous maintainer of the unity and perfection of the Supreme Being. When, with his dying breath, he reminded his followers of their religious duties, saying, quote, remember, we owe a cock to Asclepius, end quote. Well, what I want to point out about Socrates is that you really don't know if this guy Socrates really ever lived, right? We really don't know if he ever lived. But that's okay, right? Because whoever wrote this story, or whatever organization may have written the gospel story, may have also been involved in writing the stories about Socrates, right? Or maybe, as some of our ancestors say, that Socrates and the other philosophers were taken from Egyptian history, right? So that could also be the case. But either way, just something to think about, right? Let's continue. But the accompaniments and associations which identify the Saint Peter of the Gospel are more particularly: 1, his primacy in the apostleship; 2, his appointment to the care of the keys of the kingdom of heaven; 3, his designation as Cephas, which is being interpreted as a stone or rock, upon which stone or rock the church of Christ was to be founded; 4, his being the brother of Andrew; 5, his being the father of Judas Iscariot, as Judas Iscariot is expressly called the son of Simon. Wow, y'all hear that? His being the father of Judas Iscariot, as Judas Iscariot is expressly called the son, S-O-N, of Simon. That's really interesting because this book is more than 200 years old, right? And I have not heard this before in Christianity, that the Apostle Peter is alleged to be the father of Judas Iscariot because he is called the son of Simon. I never made that connection. Okay, 6, his being the peculiar comrade of James and John, the sons of Zebedee, which were partners with Simon. You can look at Luke 5, which who were partners with Simon. You can look at Luke 5 for that. Okay. 7, his always and invariably being connected with fishing, or fish nets, or a boat or ship, or with someone, or with something rather, necessarily leading the mind to some idea of water, of the sea, or of seafaring life. The ship into which Christ entered was Simon's. The house into which Christ entered was Simon's. And we have 4 partners in the firm: the brothers Simon and Andrew, and the brothers James and John, the sons of Zebedee, which name Zebedee literally signifies abundant portion. Okay, when he says literally signifies, he's talking about the etymological meaning, right? The denotative meaning. As James and John received from Christ the distinguishing title of Boanerges, which is the son of thunder. So that's from Mark chapter 3. I guess it's verse 1. Okay, the next paragraph reads, number 1, the primacy or first place in the apostleship is evidently given to Peter on no score or superior merit and can be accounted for on no other principles than the analogy of his character. Well, yep, I can see why the author is saying that. I do see why the author is saying that. There's never any reason for Peter to be chosen as the number one guy, right? Other than he was just chosen. So the author is making the presumption that he was chosen because of his character and the absolute identity of his name. So his character and the absolute identity of his name, that would be, let's see, as Simon Bar Jonah, to the first of the signs of the zodiac, Aquarius. All right. So the author is saying that he was chosen because of his character and because of the zodiac, Aquarius, the water bearer, from which the name of the month, January or January, takes its name. Followed, as you see, that month is by the sign of the fishes of February, which the man pouring out his arm of water seems to be pursuing. Hence the allegorical character of a fisherman. All right. Okay. So January, Aquarius, the water bearer, right? Pouring out his water. And then in February, there's fish. Okay. All references to water and sea. Fisherman. I can see that. Okay. All right. Okay. So hence the allegorical character of a fisherman given to the Peter of the gospel, and the belief that Janus was the son of the ocean and the invariable accomplishment of a boat or ship in all representations of the Janus of the mythology. So the author is saying that Peter is always associated with water or fishing, right? And Janus is always associated with water, right? Or the oceans. Okay. So he's saying that this is another reason why Peter is Janus, in his opinion. Okay. Or at least the author claims that he learned these things through the secret societies, right? Those renegade secret societies, okay, who decided that they wanted to enslave mankind through religion, through these ceremonies, through these ceremonial observances, right? Personifying, deifying natural things to make them into gods and make them the go-between, the middleman between you and the deity, right? Live off of you, make you a slave physically and mentally, so that they can live high on the hog and have a really, really easy life where all they have to do is keep you stupid, right? They don't have to do any work. They just keep you stupid and you keep paying them. Next paragraph. The water which Aquarius or Januarius pours out of his arm is swallowed by the great southern fish, whose name is Huat. Hence, the allegorical fiction of Jonah being swallowed by a whale in the Old Testament, and the no less allegorical danger of St. Peter of being drawn in the New. Okay, y'all see that? All right, they're saying that this astrological fish, Formalhut, is the fish that swallowed Jonah, right? Or at least there's the parallel in the gospel and in the figures that are drawn in the sky to make up these celestial constellations. He's saying that there's a parallel, right? All right. So let's see. He says, and the no less allegorical danger of Saint Peter of being drowned. Okay, so Peter was also at risk. Peter almost drowned or in danger of being drowned in the New Testament, and Jonah was swallowed by a fish. So both references to being in the water in a dangerous situation, right? 2, the keys of the kingdom of heaven given to Peter in those words of Christ, quote, I say also unto thee that thou art Peter, and upon this rock I will build my church, and the gates of hell shall not prevail against it. And I will give unto thee the keys of the kingdom of heaven. And whatever thou shalt bind on earth shall be bound in heaven, and whatever thou shalt loose on earth shall be loosed in heaven. End quote. Is a sort of language to which any notion of literality, history, or absolute fact can no more attach. In other words, there's no historical record of this, right? So anyway, so in any sort of language to which any notion of literality, history, or absolute fact can no more attach than to the language of Aesop's fables. So the author is saying that this is not literal, what he's writing. So this quote of Christ is not literal, can't be, and there's no history of it ever happening. But you can associate it with Aesop's fable or Aesop's fables. Okay, so let's continue reading. We must renounce our reason altogether, and so the greater fools of madman we can make of ourselves the better. Let me read that again. We must renounce our reason altogether. In other words, the author is saying, if you're going to believe this quote that we just read, I say unto thee, thou art Peter, and upon this rock I will build my church, so on and so forth. The author is saying you have to just abandon your reason, just give up your reason. Okay, so don't reject what he's saying. Let's hear him out and try to understand his reasoning for saying that. Okay, because you do what you want to do, right? It's your choice. So we must renounce our reason altogether, and so the greater fools or madmen we can make of ourselves, the better. To dream of such a thing as a heaven with keys to it. So the author is saying that the heaven is supposed to be physical, spiritual, right? It's spiritual, but he's saying that keys are something that are physical. So how can physical things unlock spiritual gates? That's what he's saying. You know, they don't mix. It's like oil and water. That's what he's saying. He goes on to say, the key of the pantry door and literal gates of hell and the power either given or possessed by any human being or divine being, either to bind or loose according to the caprice of his arbitrary will. So y'all think about that. That's true, right? Peter can just do whatever he wants. Doesn't matter if it follows the Most High's law. I'm talking about just what's written in the text, right? Not reading into it, but just by looking at what's in the text. Doesn't matter if he follows the Most High's law, breaks the Most High's law. He can just, or if he's doing something that's unacceptable, you know, nasty, whatever, he can just do what he wants to do because he has the keys. That's the author's point. Okay, caprice of his arbitrary will. And this renunciation of men's reason it is that has given grounds to the insane ignorance of the papal power. Y'all hear that? It's saying because people are not using their critical mind. They're not questioning, asking questions. They're not doubting and looking for proof, looking for evidence. They're just blindly believing the religious leaders. Because the people have abandoned their reason, these churches, specifically the Pope, right, papal power, the Catholic Church, right, all these religious leaders, they have tremendous power because we give it to them by not questioning, not doubting them, not making them prove what they say, okay? Or we accept what they've written and what they've told us without critically analyzing it, meaning asking a whole series of questions and doubting everything until you have answers, that are based in science that cause you to believe, right? Not something that makes sense, right? But something that you have evidence in science, because a lot of things that make sense, in fact, that's one of the ways that they really get you. They really get you because it makes sense, right? Okay, well, that makes sense that way. That makes sense, but it's not true. Y'all follow me? It makes good sense, but it's not true. All right? It is not true. Sounds good, but it's not true. All right, next paragraph. And this renunciation of men's reason it is that has given grounds to the insane ignorance of the papal power. I'm sorry, to the insane arrogance of the papal power. Y'all think about that. Think about what these religious leaders have done. Like that one guy who told the congregation he wanted a $60-something million jet and that they should basically buy it for him, right? Look at how look at all the crimes they've committed and all of the terrible things that they've done. And then the way they come out and, and say, well, we made mistakes in the past, but, we changed, right? Or don't look at us. You care about what you're doing. The arrogance of these religious leaders, okay? Because the masses of people are not asking questions. They're just believing, reading and believing, or even worse than that, just listening and believing. Okay, let's continue. And the no less insane tyranny of our Protestant clergy and the infinite miseries, cruelties, and crimes which religious insanity has entailed on the Christian world. So this reminds me of when all of these religions, not just the Catholic Church, but the JW.org too, were involved in child molestation cases, right? And they made excuses and people believed them, right? People believed them and they kept going. And the child molestation continued, right? To this day, people still keep going to these organizations and they believe the lies that they're telling them, excusing it away, right? But this is why it's insane. And that's why they have so much power. They know they can do anything. They might sacrifice one, maybe two of their leadership, priest, right? Elder, pastor. They may sacrifice one or two of them. But I know of an organization who's been, getting fined on a daily basis, big money, because they don't want to release records that would incriminate them. And it's been going on for years. All right. Okay. But the people still believe them. Next paragraph. But use your reason and how beautiful, how sublime it is, and how sublime the allegory. You have the key of the kingdom of heaven, as it were, put into your hand by Christ himself in his own express declaration that to preach the gospel was, quote, to preach the acceptable year of the capital Lord, end quote. That is, then, which no explanation could be plainer. To preach the gospel Y'all got that? To preach the gospel is set forth the annual, let me turn the page. To preach the gospel is set forth the annual phenomena of nature under the beautiful type of an allegorical history, in which the Sun, S-U-N, is represented as Jesus Christ, and the 12 apostles, through which he sheds his bright beams of light upon the world, are the 12 signs of the zodiac. And thus you see at once in how beautiful and how sublime an analogy Janus or January has two faces, one looking downward upon the old, the other upward on the new year. 2. How Reuben, the first of the 12 patriarchs, who is the same Aquarius, is described in the Pentateuch as that, quote, he shall pour the water out of his buckets, end quote. 3. All right, so he's saying that Reuben is Aquarius. All right, Reuben is Aquarius, one of the 12 patriarchs. 3, how the son, S-O-N, of man, who is the same Aquarius in the Psalms, is described as the, quote, the man of his right hand, who, capital G-O-D, end quote. That is the Son, S-U-N, quote, made so strong for his own self. All right, end quote. So that was talking about the Son of Man, right? The Son of Man, that's usually usually the Christ figure, right? Okay, 4, how the prophet Jonas, who is the same Aquarius, was swallowed by the whale. 5, how when you go into the city, the heavenly Jerusalem, quote, there shall meet you a man bearing a pitcher of water, end quote. Who is this Aquarius? Okay, so the man who will meet you bearing a pitcher of water is the same Aquarius, the water bearer of January. 6, how John the Baptist, who is this same Aquarius, comes baptizing with water to repentance, saying that they should believe on him who should come after him. That is the Son, the S-U-N, right? The S-U-N, or the Son of Man, J-C, the Christ figure, came after him, right? Okay, 7, how Simon Bar-Jonas, who is again this same Aquarius, is always connected with the idea of water and fishing, has the keys of the kingdom of heaven, as he stands as the first month of the year, and has the power of binding up the heavens in frost. Remember that, y'all? Binding up the heavens in frost. Remember? All right. The author made reference to Jack Frost, right? That was maybe one of the first videos we did. Go back and check that if you want to know more about that. All right. Okay, and has the power of binding up the heavens in frost, whose effect is felt throughout all nature, or losing them in thaws. Okay, winter thawing out to introduce spring, right? And deluging us with rains. Okay, so the winter, the snow melts, begins to melt, and then the spring rains come, of which, in like manner, everything on earth is loosened and liquefied. Y'all get what he's trying to say? The keys to the heaven, and to bind and to loosen. Binding would be when things freeze up in winter, and loosing would be when things begin to melt at the end of winter or in spring, right? And then the rains come. So Peter had the power to bind and to loose. Okay, so let's continue. All right, so everything on earth is loosened and liquefied with this only consultatory assurance that, quote, the gates of hell shall never prevail against it. That is, the end quote, that is, be the frost or thaws, the buildings or the bindings or loosenings of January, what they may. The sun, that is the sun, has given such power to his first month of the year that the gates of hell, that is the months of October, November, and December. So we went through this a couple videos ago, right? October, November, December, these are the gates of hell because of the sun going down, right? And the number of nighttime hours begin to become more than daytime hours. But the whole thing is, just go back and watch a few videos and you'll get all of that, okay? All right. The sun has given such power to this first month, that's January, to January, the first month of the year, that the gates of hell are the months of October, November, and December, which the sun passes through in autumn and winter. Y'all see that? So autumn and winter is the time of the gates of hell. The months of the gates of hell is October, November, December. All right, so autumn and winter. All right, so in the autumn and winter, we'll never be able to recover their empire. In January, the rock of ages, okay, Peter's the rock, right, on which the Christ figure shall build his church. In January, the rock of ages, with all ruggedness or frost or thaws, by the evidence of his lengthening days, assures us that. So remember, December 25th, 12 o'clock midnight, the sun will have ascended a full 1 degrees upward. Now the sun is rising up. This is what the author is referring to. So that marks the beginning, that 1 degree ascension of the sun up marks the beginning of the lengthening of the number of daylight hours. Okay, so here we are. Let me read it again. By the evidence of his, that's the sun's lengthening of days, assures us that, quote, though horrors round our mansion reign, yet spring shall come and nature smile again. End quote. All right, so y'all see all of these analogies to nature. Natural law governs everything. Natural law governs everything, right? Natural law governs everything on earth. So let me see, how long have we been going? Has it been an hour yet? Not quite an hour yet. So shalawama, if you are new, welcome. This is Astrotheology. I am Dr. Yasapa from Zion Law School. If you've been coming regularly, I want to say shalawama, good to see you back. You are displaying a lot of interest, but more important than that, discipline, because it takes discipline to learn. Okay, it takes discipline to learn, and you're getting it from the book, not from me, which is better for you. So let's continue. Next paragraph. We're on page 157. It reads, let me make sure I got the right page up for y'all. Okay. Yeah, we're on 157. All right. So we're going to start from that first paragraph. And hence have we the meaning of that conundrum, that in the days of November and December, which are now gone by, we desire to see one of the days of January, that is, one of the days of the Son of Man, that's the S-O-N of man, and we're not able to. I grew up in a place that had extremely cold winters, deep snow. I mean, we used to have snowstorms, deep snow, slush. What do they call it? Slush? Yeah, slush. It was, winters were terrible. And I remember I couldn't wait for that snow to start melting. So I can really relate to what this author is saying. But y'all check this. Check this. In Israel, over in Africa, do they have bad winters like this? Right? Do they have terrible snowstorms where things freeze up, right? And you run the risk of dying if you don't have firewood, right? Because how you going to drink water? Are you going to suck the ice, right? Where are you going to get food during the winter? Do they even have fall? Or do they just have hot season and rainy season? Or they call it dry season and wet season in some places, right? But you know where they got 4 seasons at? They have 4 seasons in North America. Okay. I'm from the East Coast. They have winter, spring, summer, fall, and winter is a beast. Winter is a beast. Check out a Chicago winter, all right? Or check out a Wisconsin winter, okay? They are rough. Winters are rough, no joke, all right? And then the spring, when spring comes and you come out of that real cold, freezing winter, and things start to thaw out, and you see things start to grow again. The sky is looking blue and clear again. Oh man, I mean, you feel really, really happy. And then summertime, and then fall, and now you're starting to feel down, anticipating, well, dang, after fall, we right back into winter, and November, December, it's gonna be freezing, and you're gonna be slipping and sliding when you're driving down the street. So, but did they have these kind of winters over there in Africa, in East Africa? So it makes you have to ask the question, what is this all about? This astrotheology, right? Where were the people who came up with the concept of these constellations? Who came up with the Gospels? Let's say if the author is correct and the Gospels are fables, right? Where did they get this concept of wintertime if they never experienced wintertime? Y'all see what I'm saying? They only experienced 2 seasons. Y'all follow me? But the astrotheology is dealing with 4 seasons. So I have to think about that, right? So what's the author talking about? Is the author correct? And the geographical location of the place where the Gospels took place somewhere else? Right? You have to figure it out. Think about it. Let me check the comments. Darrell-El. Shalom, Darrell-El. Darrell-El says European. Right on. Right on. But y'all see what a critical question, or what how doubting can lead you to ask very good questions. Okay, very good questions. Darrell-El, if at any time you know someone who, let's say, follows the gospel, if they want to join in, let's say in the live or call in, if you know somebody, or even if you want to, I don't know like where you stand on what, but you're welcome, or they are welcome to give the viewpoint from someone who follows the gospel on these matters. Okay, so you're more than welcome to do that, or if you know somebody else, you can ask them if you like to, and I'll be more than welcome to let them come in, and then they can give their opinion. Only thing is that I want to keep it strictly on what we're considering in the book, and that there'll be no like evangelizing or going into doctrines, but we just have like a scholarly discussion on specifically what the author is writing. Okay, excellent, Darrell-El. I appreciate that, and I think Darrell-El, I think that'll make these astrotheology presentations more powerful in terms of their educational content, right, or their educational value. Yeah, I think that would be very helpful. So thank you very much for that. All right, let's continue with page 157. Quote, the disciple is not above his lowercase Lord. It is enough for the disciple that he be as his lowercase Lord, end quote. And hence, the equal respect paid in the heaven mythology to Janus as to the supreme Jupiter himself. And each of the 12 great lowercase gods when spoken of separately and distinctively, being each in turn spoken of and addressed as the one supreme, that's capital supreme, capital S, Upreme, and only capital God. Okay? All right. Hence, in the Christian mythology, the equal respect paid to the apostles or to each and every of them as to Christ himself, and indeed a great deal more, as you will find throughout Christendom. 20 churches built to the honor of St. Peter, St. James, St. Andrew, and all the rest of them, except St. Judas Iscariot, for one to the honor of poor Jesus. And hence, you see, with what an accuracy of analogy. The apostles has a house of his own, while the Savior has not where to lay his head. The constellations retaining their fixed relative positions, while the sun, S-U-N, in seeming to pass through them, wanders from house to house. That is a very powerful point to me. The apostles, they have their zodiac signs, right? 1 through 12. But because the sun, S-O-N, is traveling through each zodiac sign as the sun, S-U-N, that means JC, the Christ figure, has no home of his own. He's continually going from house to house or zodiac to zodiac, year in and year out. This is a very good point. All right, next paragraph. And hence, as you find Jesus in the gospel calling Peter a stone. Stone, I remember back in the day, people used to call people stoners, right? But that's what just came to my mind. Calling Peter a stone, you will find Peter in the epistle returning the compliment and calling him a stone, and the drollest kind of a stone that ever was in the world, quote, a living stone unto whom coming. He says, quote, as unto a living stone, disallowed indeed of men, but chosen of capital God and precious, end quote. And this, an accomplishment of that most extraordinary prophecy in the 28th of Isaiah, quote, thus saith capital Lord, capital God, quote, behold, I lay in Zion for a foundation. Let me turn the page, y'all. That a stone, a tried stone, a precious cornerstone, a sure foundation, and he that believeth shall not make haste. All right, so end quote. Which for any explication that any of my reverend brethren can give, and saying, most reverentially saying, the honor of the capital Lord, capital God, who you know has a right to say what he pleases, right? Because he's the big boss, right? If anybody else had said it, I should say no. So in other words, because the deity, the capital God deity said it, you got to accept it. You cannot say no, right? He continues, I won't tell you what I should say. So in other words, you have to be afraid of the deity in order to believe this, right? So in other words, if I'm understanding the author correctly, the author is saying that there's some bullying going on, right? Not directly. Okay, and I can relate to this when I was in religion too, right? Because if you didn't believe what they were believing and teach what they taught, they would kick you out. And then they would shun you, and they would make everybody else shun you, including your husband, wife, your children, mother, father, best friends. Everybody would shun you. So that's a form of intimidation, a form of bullying, right? They can control you without ever having to do it directly, because you know and they know what's going to happen. Okay. Next paragraph. And in fact, what about y'all? Are y'all in a camp right now, or a church or assembly where you cannot disagree? Right? That's a good question, right? Are you in a religion where you cannot disagree? If you disagree, they're going to put you out. So think about that. What situation are you in right now? What's your personal situation? All right. Are you in a cultist type of situation? Right? Think about that. Will your camp put you out if you're not down with the program? All right. So that's enough about that. Let me continue. And does it become us? Oh, let me rephrase that. Now I'm in the wrong paragraph. Okay. Are we then so positively commanded to worship a stone and to believe in a stone, and that under peril of the dualist damnation that every man was damned to, that if we don't believe in a stone, we shall make haste, right? You're going to go to hell if you don't believe in the stone, if you don't believe the doctrine, right? Y'all know there are some camps who teach, or religious, let me rephrase that. There's some religious organizations who teach that they have the right doctrine, nobody else got it, and you have to go with with the doctrine that they're presenting. Otherwise, you going to hell, but you definitely gonna get kicked out of here, right? I know some Christianity and amongst the Hebrew Israelites. All right, next paragraph. And think about that, y'all. Do you really want to be in an organization where there's that type of intimidation? Think about that, right? Next paragraph. And does it come to us then to fling stones at the pretended ignorance of our heathen ancestors, and to, oh wow, that's a powerful point, right? Peter is the rock, is the stone, right? A stone, a tried stone, a precious cornerstone. But when people committed adultery, killed somebody, you'd stone them. I never thought of that. This author is good. I'm not saying he's right or he's wrong, but he's very detailed in his analysis. He's drawing parallels that I would have never connected that. But he, according to the author, he got this because he was in the secret societies and he knows, right? All right, so let's continue. And the only way you would know, according to the author, is that if you were in them, because somebody has to tell you. That's what he said. That may have been maybe 5 videos ago. Let me check the comments real quick. All right. Appellation Joel, Islam, I self-law am master. Shalawama, good to see you, my brother. All right, so let's go back to the text. Appellation Joel says, greetings to all. Okay. Let me go back, y'all. I got to find my place. Okay, all right, here it goes. Okay, and does it become us then to fling stones at the pretended ignorance of our heathen ancestors, and to assure ourselves that none other than the grossest lithology could have been intended by those who address their devotions to the immoral statutory of a Phidias or Praxiteles, the Paphians, Venus, or the Olympian Jove, Jove, all of Parian marble, and of such matchless execution as if the design of them had been to present a perpetual abomination to the world. So these must have been some immoral statues. Well, we'll look it up later. Okay, hold on. Let me check the comments. I see we have some comments. Okay. Darrell-El says the stone is the hypocrisy and using Peter is the offense. Nice point. Nice point. Nice point. Apostle Joel says, greeting, seeing you as well, Doc. Excellent. Excellent point, Darrell-El. All right, let's continue. Okay. If anybody knows who this Phidias is, or this Praxiteles, or Pophanian Venus, or Olympian Job, if y'all know who they are, could you put it in the chat? Or if you have a link or something like that, put it in the chat for others. And even me, because I don't know who they are. I would like to find out who they are. But since I'm alone, I'm going to keep reading. I'm not going to search them, because I get confused, y'all, trying to do more than 2-3 things at a time. Okay, so here we are. Let's continue. Okay, we stopped at Job. Okay. Okay. All right, I see. It says, so how infinitely clever man may become when he gives his mind to the arts and sciences, and what a fool religion makes him. Ain't that the truth, y'all? Ain't that the truth? Religion, from my personal life, I can only speak for myself. I was involved in Christianity for decades, and I outpoped the Pope, as Dr. Clark used to say, right? Believed all of it, read it, studied it, did all of that. And in the end, I found out that I had been made a fool out of, right? A marriage later, 2 babies later, the whole destruction of the family that these religions, I experienced all of that. And then the realization that you've been made a fool of, right? And that's a hard thing to deal with. But fortunately, all praises to the Most High, I was able to see it and deal with it and get out of it, right? So that's my story in a nutshell. So I feel for people who are going through that process right now, because it really rocks your world. But if you're going through that process right now, it's well worth it. Hang in there, be decisive, and think about yourself. Think about preserving yourself, not preserving the religious organization. Okay? And but if that's what your path is going to be, right? That was what my path was going to be, or what my path was. But when you realize what's happening, you'll be better off, right? Just make it through. You can do it. All right. Okay, so religion makes a fool of him, but the man who studies the arts and the sciences, remember the arts and the sciences, y'all, that has to do with philology, right? According to this author, philology, art, science, okay? Part of the art would be what? Being able to examine these structures, let's say the cathedrals, the statues, being able to look into the sky and know which stars to connect to make the constellations, right? That's all art, right? And even, for example, medicine is an art, okay? It's not a practice, it's an art to it. In other words, there are things that are intuitive about it. That makes it an art, okay? And then, of course, the linguistics and the historical piece as well. But anyway, I really appreciate what he's saying right here. So we'll continue with the paragraph. Oh, but cry my gospel innocence. Oh, but cry my gospel innocence. The stone spoken of in scripture does not mean a stone. No, it does not. And neither does the man spoken of in the gospel mean a man. And no such man as JC, that's Jesus Christ, or such men as any of his 12 apostles ever existed. Nor has their historical existence ever been pretended. Ever been pretended. This book was written over 200 years ago, y'all. But by those who object is to make mankind in ignorance, and who have justly and who have justly that woe denounced against them by the speaker in the gospel, who was in his day what I am called in mine, the devil's chaplain. Hence the title of the book, The Devil's Pulpit. The secret society members branded the author, this Reverend Robert Taylor, branded him as the devil's chaplain, because he went and started telling the secret society's secrets that the gospels are astrotheology. Well, actually, he's saying, the author is saying both the Old and the New Testament is astrotheology, but he says for sure the gospels are astrotheology, right? So now they labeled him, they had him put in jail. When he got out, he was able to get out, good for him. Then they said he was a devil, the devil's chaplain, all right? Hence the title of the book. So it's no spooky stuff, y'all. It's just these dirty, rotten priests and preachers tried to do him in by labeling him a devil's chaplain. All right. So woe unto you hypocrites. Let me go back up one sentence. Okay. He says, what I am called in mine, the devil's chaplain. So if you disagree with these religious people that the Christ figure lived, they call you a devil even before the author was born. That's what he's saying. Right? Even before he was born, they'd call you a devil. And in his lifetime, now they're calling him a devil. All right? Because he spilled the beans. He let the cat out of the bag. All right. And who said to the chief priests and lawyers what I say to them? Quote, woe unto you, hypocrites! Of ye have taken away the key of knowledge. Ye enter not in yourselves, and them that were entering in you hinder, end quote. That's Luke chapter 11. With that key, I now present you in the moral certainty that by Zion was never meant any place on earth, but the great circle of the starry heavens. So the author here is now referring to the celestial globe. I showed that several videos ago, what the celestial globe looks like. So go back and watch those videos. Maybe tomorrow I might show it if I remember it, or if someone reminds me, I'll show it. All right. He continues, as the stone laid for the foundation in that Zion, the sure foundation is that first of the signs of the zodiac, from which the whole vaulty arc of heaven makes its spring. So that first sign, remember, is in January, which the sun enters in the month of January. So the sun, S-U-N, enters in the month of January. All right. Quote, next paragraph, quote, and he that believeth, end quote, that is, he who is understandeth the science hidden under this allegory. Let me repeat that. Quote, and he that believeth, that is, he who understands the science hidden under this allegory, so as to know the bearings and positions of this first of the constellations. Y'all hear that? So what's the science? The author told us what the science is a couple chapters back. He said, in order for you to be able to use, in order for you to be able to take the keys, you have to be able to look in the sky and know which stars to connect to create the constellations. Okay? That's one of the keys that he's talking about, but let's continue. So that's one of the sciences that he's talking about. All right. So as to know the bearings and positions of this first of the constellations, right? You got to know the first one so that you can know the second, third, fourth, da, 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 da. All right. He will not make haste, meaning, or that is, he will become an accurate chronologer and will be able to keep his account of time. Y'all hear that? If you know how to connect the stars to make the constellations, if you know where to look for January, and you can connect those stars into the constellation, you will be an accurate timekeeper. You'll be able to know the time. Why is it important to know the time? Because you need to know when the harvest is going to come. You need to know when you're going to be able to plant. Everybody see that? Everybody see that? That's why science is so important. That's the whole stuff about the almanacs that they used to use in the early in the 16, 17, 1800s, early 1900s, the almanacs, right? Benjamin Franklin had a famous almanac. All right. So you will be able to keep account of time with the accuracy of an almanac. See that? Through the whole acceptable year of the capital Lord. So what's the whole acceptable year? Okay, there's 4 seasons: winter, summer, spring, and fall. The 3 seasons are all there to serve the purpose of autumn or the fall, right? Because that's when you get your harvest. That's the climactic part of the year, according to the author. Let's continue. And as the astrology and as the astrologue in the New Testament rebukes his hearers for their stupidity, quote, a wicked and adulterous nation or generation, end quote. That is, going ad altera, looking to the stars that lie without the band of the zodiac, quote, seeketh for a sign from heaven, and there shall no sign be given them, but the sign of the prophet, that is, the foreteller of future events, the prophet Jonah. So Jonah comes back up, and I'm talking about in the author's writings, right? We just read a lot about Jonah maybe 2 pages ago. Okay, so that's the end quote. That is Aquarius. So Jonah again is Aquarius, the water bearer, because if you don't understand that, if you don't understand that Jonas is Aquarius, the water bearer, you are too stupid ever to make any proficiency in astronomy. But understanding that, you will soon be able to decipher all the rest as thus. 1, January is St. Peter, Aquarius. 2, February is St. Judas Iscariot, the fishes, that fellow who betrayed his master and lost the day, as St. Peter in the Acts of the Apostles explains expressly, quote, that he might go to his own place, end quote. So he lost the day so that he might go to his own place. All right. 3, March is St. Andrew, the brother of Peter, because formerly the year was reckoned to begin in March. Right, y'all? Formerly the year began in March, and they changed it to January. All right. And therefore, equal honor is due to them both. And Andrew is universally distinguished by his standing before a saltire cross. The cross like the letter X, which is a goniometer. We went through that several lessons ago, so y'all can go back and watch the videos for that. Or exact measure of the angle which the sun makes in crossing the equator. The exact angle which the sun makes or can be found at when it crosses the equator, as he does in the month of March. Y'all see that? There's that cross, okay? That cross that looks like an X, representing nothing more than the angle or measure that the sun crosses the celestial equator at. 4, April is Matthew, the Taurus, or bull of the zodiac. As you see, all representations of St. Matthew with the bull's head at his feet. All representations of St. Matthew with a bull's head at his feet. Somebody check that. See if y'all can find an image of St. Matthew with the bull's head at his feet, or check St. Matthew and Taurus. All right, as if of purpose to show us what the proper understanding of the thing is. Okay, so there's probably some images of St. Matthew with the bull head at his feet, or with Taurus at his feet, right? If you find that, that's the astrological indication that the author is writing about. 5, May is John, the disciple Jesus loved. 6, June is Thomas or Didymaeus, directly raising out of the twins. The twins are Gemini, right, y'all? Let me turn the page for y'all. The twins are Gemini. All right. Okay, so next. Okay, so twins. Yet himself a crab sort of fellow, that towards the last and half of a mind to go backwards. So, okay, so let's read that again. 6, June is Thomas or Didymaeus. June is Thomas or Didymaeus, directly rising out of the twins. So Thomas or Didymaeus directly rises out of Gemini, the twins, yet himself a crabbed sort of fellow. So Thomas is a crabbed sort of fellow. Thomas is a crab, Didymaeus is a crab. All right, 7, July is James the Greater, capital Greater. 8, August is Judith, the brother of James. 9, September is James the Less, capital Less, surnamed Ablia, the just. Holding Libra, that's the scales, right? The balance of justice. 10, October is Nathaniel, whom Christ saw under the fig tree, gathering the last remaining fruits of the year and called by Philip. So October is Nathaniel, who Christ saw under the fig tree, gathering in the last remaining fruits of the year and called Philip. All right, so that's harvest time, right? 11, November was Philip, whose very name signifies lover of a horse. November was Philip, whose very name signifies lover of a horse. As you see, his characteristic in the Sagittarius of the zodiac. Okay, so again, November, Philip. I'm assuming that November is Sagittarius. All right, Philip means lover of a horse. Sagittarius is a horse with a bow and arrow, right? So Phillips loves the horse, Sagittarius, who is also represented as half a man and half a horse, or so passionately attached to the sport of the field as always to be on horseback. And you have this curious definition. John chapter 1, verse 44, quote, now Philip was of Bethsaida, end quote. Bethsaida literally signifying the house of hunters. And 12, December is Simon the Canaanite. Okay, so that concludes the sermon or the discourse, the sermon of the discourse of Peter, St. Peter. All right, so tomorrow we're going to do Judas Iscariot Vindicated. So Judas Iscariot Vindicated was a sermon that the Reverend Robert Taylor gave on March 6, 1831. So y'all see this is very old, right? 1831, 1931, 2031. Very, very old, very old. This sermon is very old. Okay, so tomorrow we'll be back Monday, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So all times, this is the schedule of the Astrotheology presentations, okay? Here's the schedule. All are Eastern Standard Time. Monday, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Tuesday, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Wednesday, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Thursday, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Friday, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Saturday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And Sunday, 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So I'm going to repeat it one more time. Monday, 9 p.m. Tuesday, 10 p.m. Wednesday, 10 p.m. Thursday, 10 p.m. Friday, 10 p.m. Saturday, 8 p.m. Saturday, 8 p.m. Sunday, 2 p.m. So we're going to continue until we complete the whole book. We are on page 161, and there is a total of 341 pages. All right. So thank you, everyone, for joining me. And those of you who commented, I greatly appreciate it. And I think I can speak for everyone who's going to come in the future and watch this video. All right, so we'll see you tomorrow. Don't forget to subscribe to 101 Ancient Ibaryath. All right, that's our heritage. Subscribe, and you'll really, really learn a lot, and you're going to enjoy it. I guarantee you. And it's basically, well, it's almost free, y'all. Here it is, zionlawschool.org. This is what you want to look for. All right, there's no doctrine, $1 for one-day trial. There's 113 lessons. Y'all scroll down and look through everything. You can see what's in it. All right, let me close out with Jeremiah 8, chapter 8. All right, so give me 1 second. Don't go nowhere. Let me show Jeremiah 8, 1:8. Jeremiah chapter 8, verse 8 before y'all go, okay? So we can bring this full circle. We're going to go into the Bible Hub. Jeremiah chapter 8, verse 8. Here we are. This is the Bible Hub, Jeremiah chapter 8, verse 8. This has Jeremiah chapter 8, verse 8 translated in many different Bible versions. We're going to focus on the Amplified Bible, all right? Here's why what we're doing is important. Here's how it connects to you personally, directly, immediately. Here's why you need to act now. Act now. Jeremiah 8, verse 8, Amplified Bible reads, how can you say we are wise? Again, wisdom is the proper application of knowledge. How can you say we are applying knowledge properly? And the law or the instructions or the commandments and the law or the instructions and the commandments of the Most High is with us. And we are learned in its language. What language? Not biblical Hebrew, not modern Hebrew. These are not ancient languages. Our ancestors did not speak or write those languages. It's absolutely false. They did not. Check any good encyclopedia, and you'll see that for yourself. Our ancestors spoke Ibaryath. All right. So how can you say we are applying knowledge properly, correctly, and that the instructions or the commandments of the Most High is with us? And we are learned in its language, and we are learned in Ibaryath. Learning language is extremely important. Philology, right? Etymology, grammar, parts of speech, all of this stuff. And we've been seeing the author work through this, right? And we are learned in its language, Ibaryath, and teachings. What teachings? The Most High's laws, commandments, his instructions, right? How can you say we are applying knowledge of the Most High's commandments properly? How can you say we are learned in the language that our ancient ancestors spoke and wrote, Ibaryath? Behold, the truth is that the lying pen of the scribes, who are your ancestors and mine, the lying pen of the scribes have made the law, the commandments, into a lie, a mere code of ceremonial observances. By definition, that is religion. Our ancestors, during the time of Babylonian captivity, when Jeremiah lived, everything was just jumping off. Our ancestors started writing in whole verses, changing words, adding in chapters and books to create religion. That religion was to get you and me, our people, to focus on worshiping external deities in violation of the first commandment in Exodus chapter 20, verse 1 through 3, right? All right. Put you in the curses and keep you there by making you a fool, as the author keeps talking about, making you a fool, worshiping a deity instead of learning about natural laws. Y'all understand that? Learn science, learn mathematics, learn about agriculture. But no, they taught us to worship deities. And in the worshiping of the deity, we become dependent on the priest, the pastor, the rabbi, the Moshe, the imam. Now they're the go-between and we need to pay them. And now we lose all of the sciences, all of the skills that we need to be independent and live together as a happy family. We're dependent on them for food and water because we don't know anything about building. We don't know anything about how to live on the earth and make life good for ourselves, right? Because of religion. Babylonian captivity brought to us Judaism, Christianity, Islam, and all of the other religions, which were at one time merely sciences that they personified or deified, anthropomorphized, and fooled us into worshiping them and begging them for things we can do for ourselves. Y'all follow me? All right. So that's all I have to say, y'all. I want to say thank you. I appreciate you spending your time with me. I enjoyed it. I hope you learned something. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to put it in the chat, and I will be sure to give you an answer. I can't guarantee you that I know everything. You know, there's a lot I don't know, but what I do know, I can share with you. If I don't know, I'll tell you honestly, I don't know. All right? All right. So see y'all tomorrow. This was fun. I enjoyed it. Shalom.